Did this man predict the crash of Air India Flight 171, that Boeing 787 Dreamliner that killed nearly 300 people? Stay tuned. Okay, guys, we're going to get to that 787 whistleblower in just 1 second. But for those of you that did not see my last video and the video prior to that, let me catch you up real quick. This is the rat. What you're looking at is the ram air turbine. It's already been accepted that the rat was deployed. This is not rumor. This is not hearsay. This is now factual evidence. In addition, the slats and flaps were also properly configured for takeoff. Again, not rumor, not hearsay. There's pictures online of the leading edge of the wing and the trailing edge of the wing, and flaps and slats were configured properly. The main landing gear, the bogies, or trucks, or whatever you want to call them, they're tilted forward. Normally on the 787, when the gear is down and locked, they are canted aft, and they are not. They are tilted forward. And as I explained in my last video, that's indicative that the gear handle was swung into the up retract position, more than likely, because the first thing that happens is those wheels cant forward, and then the gear folds up and retracts, and then the gear doors close. So I am in the camp of something electrically and or hydraulically extremely catastrophic happened, and there was a dual engine failure. Now the question is, did the dual engine failure happen and that's what shut down all the electronics and hydraulics, or was there some catastrophic electrical / hydraulic emergency that somehow, and I don't know how this could even happen, but somehow led to the failure of both engines? That's the part we're going to have to wait for the digital flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder and the investigation to reveal. Now, before we get to the video, and I will show you video testimony of the whistleblower, believe it or not, there were other whistleblowers, and this is the first whistleblower, and he's probably the one that's actually the well-known one because he allegedly committed suicide. I'm talking, of course, about John Barnett. John Barnett worked in, you guessed it, the 787 program, quality manager with Boeing for 30 years. And according to ABC4 News out of Charleston, South Carolina, was a close family friend that said John Barnett predicted he might wind up dead, and the story could surface that he killed himself, and he told her not to believe it. "I know that he did not commit suicide," said Jennifer. "There's no way." She's known John Barnett for many years, birthday celebrations, get-togethers, etc., etc. Jennifer asked her friend John if he was scared, and he said, "Nope, I ain't scared, but if anything happens to me, it's not suicide." Well, lo and behold, guess what? John Barnett committed suicide. Perhaps he shot himself in the back of the head 18 times. Very, very tragic, right? More on John Barnett from the Times of India. This article is just a few days old. Again, Barnett was with Boeing for more than 30 years as a quality manager on the 787 program. He told BBC that in 2019, many under-pressure workers were deliberately fitting substandard parts to aircraft on the production line to prevent delays. When retiring in 2017, he, of course, commenced legal action against the company, and we know how that ended. Now, of course, the 787 has had many issues since it's been released. I know everyone says it's got a tremendous safety record because this is the first complete hull loss of a Boeing 787, and that is accurate, but it has not been without its share of hiccups along the way, including the lithium-ion battery fires, gaps in fuselage and joints, which we'll get to more in a minute, and of course, sloppy Boeing workers leaving foreign objects hidden inside of the airliner that they apparently forgot all about, that were found quite frequently during routine maintenance inspections. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes. Sam Salahpour. Interesting quote from this man. Called them a ticking time bomb. Those are powerful words coming from a man who was in charge of quality. And we're going to get to his testimony here in a second. But before we do that, CNN published this article almost exactly 1 year ago from today, very close to exactly 1 year. They said that whistleblowers are coming forward for the 787 Dreamliner. It's built in an unsafe manner, potentially leading to devastating consequences. Richard Kuvas, mechanic at Storm, which was a subcontractor for Boeing and a partner with Spirit Aerosystems, said that he witnessed holes that were improperly drilled. He filed a complaint in October to Boeing. It stated there were substandard manufacturing and maintenance processes, and then he was fired just a few months later. Well, hey, at least he didn't shoot himself in the back of the head 26 times, right? Spirit Aerosystems and Storm, of course, would not make any comment. The FAA has reviewed 126 whistleblower reports from this year and 11 from last year. So we're talking 2023 and 2024. Wow, that's a lot of whistleblower reports. Kuvas said the gaps he observed were in the forward pressure bulkheads, which are structural guys, and that appeared in 2 aircraft that he helped build, and it could have potentially led to catastrophe. And that is not an exaggeration. Kuvas said that his colleagues were stating, "We have a snitch among us." Of course, Spirit suddenly fired him. And Kuvas stated that he witnessed these problems with 3 planes that he worked on, and he believes these issues may affect at least 10 to 12 planes, either in production or already released to Boeing, which now those planes would have already been released to the flying public. So they are, at some airline, more than likely providing normal scheduled 121 air service, at least until through fatigue and stress of the constant pressurization and depressurization, one of those bulkheads blows out, and that will not be pretty. I'm going to play about a minute's worth of Sam Salapor's testimony. I encourage all of you to actually go and listen to the entire thing from start to finish. I'm going to do that in just 1 second here. But in the meantime, where does that leave us? Is the 787 safe? I can't say that. I have no idea if it is or it isn't. Boeing says it's safe. We have a crash that just happened that killed nearly 300 people, both in the plane and on the ground. And you have to raise some eyebrows at that, especially with all of the problems Boeing has had lately, not just on the 787 program, but also on the 737 MAX program. They had 2 complete hull losses on the MAX. There's been other issues with the 787 doing an uncontrolled dive before. Of course, they had to rework the MCAS for all of the 737 MAXs to prevent the issue that caused those crashes. There's been a tremendous amount of whistleblowers. It's not just John Barnett and Sam Salapor. There's been many whistleblowers. It's not like there's just 2 or 3 of them. I personally think Boeing has a severe safety culture problem, and that needs to be addressed ASAP. Hopefully, if those 10 to 12 airframes are still flying out there that have the problem with that pressure bulkhead, hopefully they recall those airliners in to fix the issue before another catastrophe happens. Because, unfortunately, as many of you know, everything in aviation is written in blood. We're very reactive and we're not proactive, and we need to be more proactive, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot just keep reacting to problems and wait for a crash to happen and for 300 people to die, and then we come back and say, oops, okay, that was a mistake. We're going to go back and fix it now. We need to stop these things from happening before they actually happen. And I think Boeing is obviously focused more on profits than safety. And that, in my opinion, is a very sad fact. I don't think that Sam Salapor's testimony that you're going to hear is necessarily relevant to this Air India crash, because he's talking about gaps that are about the thickness of a human hair. But here's my concern. If Boeing is cutting corners and using such sloppy practices to fit parts of the airplane together, where else are they cutting corners? What else are they doing? Maybe there's other whistleblowers that haven't come forward yet, and there's other problems about the 787 that we just don't know. I think it's fair to say that under the leadership of Dave Calhoun at Boeing, that company went to hell. And I know that's a strong statement, but you're not seeing these kinds of problems from Embraer or Airbus. They're just not happening. Here's the testimony.
I have analyzed Boeing's own data to conclude that the company is taking manufacturing shortcuts on the 787 program that may significantly reduce the airplane safety, pushing pieces together with excessive force to make them appear that the gaps don't exist, even though they exist. Effectively, they are putting out defective airplanes. I want to make clear that I have raised these issues over 3 years. I was ignored. I was told not to create delays. I was told, frankly, to shut up. Boeing manufacturing used unmeasured and unlimited amount of force to correct the misalignment. And this also weakens the airplane in the long run. I literally saw people jumping on the pieces of the airplane to get them to align. I call it the Tarzan effect. Again, I raised concerns internally. I was sidelined. I was told to shut up. I received physical threats. My boss said, I would have killed someone who said what you said.